Greetings everyone, I hope your day is going well. So if by some chance you haven't heard yet, CD Projekt Red and Trigger collaborated and made an anime called Cyberpunk Edgerunners. In a nutshell, this was CD Projekt Red's desperate attempt to revive the game. If you're like me and possibly many other people, you've watched the anime before playing the game and for good reason, which I'll touch on later. Many were skeptical about the show. After all, the game was kind of a colossal shitfest at the time. But even after everyone's skepticism, Cyberpunk Edgerunners managed to not only revive the game, but put the game in a flourishing state with over 1 million active players, which was announced by Cyberpunk's official Twitter account. But before we fully dive into the anime, let's talk about the history of Cyberpunk 2077. The game was announced back in 2012 and the first trailer for the game dropped in 2013. This gave the game around 8 years of hype and anticipation, which is great for any game. But the game got pushed back like a fuck ton of times. The initial release date was April 16th, 2020, but then it got pushed back to September 17th, then to November 19th, and finally to December 10th, 2020. Clearly, they wanted to release the game for the Christmas season, but releasing it was a horrible decision. The game was absolutely riddled with bugs and other game-breaking glitches. I haven't played the game at all, so I don't know how bad the glitches actually were, so I'm going off the internet here. Because, as you know, trusting the internet is an incredibly smart move to do. Refunds were offered and around 30,000 copies of the game were refunded. Clearly, the game wasn't doing well, and there was no hope of the game getting back on its feet. Or maybe there was. Before I start talking about the story, I want to point out that mostly everything that I talk about are my interpretations and my opinions on Cyberpunk Edgerunners. This is what I feel that I gathered from the story, so feel free to disagree. Also, there are going to be spoilers, so you have been warned. I feel like the cyberpunk theme hasn't gotten enough recognition in any media. Like, besides 2077 and Edgerunners, can you name a few games or movies that have the cyberpunk theme? For me, the only thing that comes to mind is stuff like Blade Runner and Mirror's Edge, but after that, I can't think of much else. Usually, when you think of a cyberpunk setting, you think of bustling neon cities packed with diverse technology. And for the most part, you'd be right, but most people forget about the ugly side of the cyberpunk setting. 2077 and Edgerunners deals with ultra-corporatism. Corporatism means that corporations are so big that they have replaced governments as centers of political, economic, and even military control. The city that the game and anime takes place in is called Night City, and Night City doesn't serve the interests of people, but rather the huge corporations that run the city. The main protagonist in Edgerunners is David Martinez, a student at Arnstock Academy and son to Gloria Martinez. David's family is severely impoverished, so David illegally modifies his cyberware to avoid paying for a required update to keep attending class. The modifications, however, crash the school's system and makes David's mother, Gloria, pay for the damages. On their way home, David and Gloria get caught up in a drive-by shooting, leaving Gloria severely injured. While in the burning vehicle, David watches as a trauma team passes by him and Gloria because they weren't insured. This later ends up getting Gloria killed because her injuries worsened. So the first episode sets up a premise of ultra-corporatism almost immediately. Night City runs on money, and your social status and even your life depends on how much money you have. So any underdogs like David are either trying to make a name for themselves by being criminals or living in these synthetic fantasies called BDs or brain dances. David tried being a student, but after his mother's death, he becomes an edgerunner. David had literally no other option after his mother's death. He had to be an edgerunner for any sort of income. That is how corporatized Night City is. Another path is being a junkie on the street, where brain dances and drugs are your only form of entertainment. These brain dances can make the user experience someone else's memories with all the senses, including emotions. So these people who are severely impoverished go through these BDs as their only form of entertainment, or maybe even their only positive emotions. Cyberpunk Edgerunners makes it a point to never show the middle class. By never introducing anybody from the middle class, it drives home the point of how prevalent the corporatism is in Night City. You can literally only be rich or poor. Everything in Night City is monetized to such an insane degree. There are also varying types of medical plans, and only the richest can afford a plan that can save lives. We see this when the doctor tells David that Gloria died. This is due to their family not having good enough health coverage, and the doctor wouldn't help her any further. Alright, now to give a good example of what the story is like, imagine the unforgiving nature of a Kame ga Kill and the visceral nature of Devilman Crybaby. If they fucked and had a baby, that baby would be Cyberpunk Edgerunners. And to those people who have watched a Kame ga Kill, yes, many main characters die. Actually, almost all of them die. This show does not hesitate to play with your feelings, so you don't really know if you're going to get a good ending or not like majority of other shows. This leaves you on edge throughout the show, wondering if your favorite character will survive until the end, because they like to fucking kill them. It's thrilling and also terrifying knowing that your favorite character can and probably will be next on the chopping block. Positive emotions do exist in the show though, albeit there are really only a few. And you probably saw this coming. The positive emotions that do exist in the show are played with a lot. When Gloria died, David quickly met Lucy on the train, who is a netrunner. After witnessing her stealing from people, David agrees to team up with her. Later on, David meets more of the team, which includes Maine, Dorio, Kiwi, Rebecca, and Pilar. These people essentially become David's new family, but just like David's first family, these new people don't last very long. Happiness in Night City is a mere dream to the people who live here. The show drives home how utterly depressing and hopeless Night City actually is. Night City doesn't just feel like a prison, it is one. Everyone wants to leave this hellish city, but they know they can't. Outside of Night City is a giant sprawling desert known as the Badlands. The Badlands is also horribly polluted, so good luck finding water or any other supplies out there. You either suffer in Night City or you die trying to escape it in the Badlands. After all, trapping people in your city is good for profits. In some sort of weird way, Edgerunners teaches us a lesson. This could be America and other countries like America in the future if we don't change our ways. We could spiral ourselves into a corporate hellscape where our lives, our families, our friends, our everything can be reduced down to a paper bill. You exist to spend money. Even your friends can be against you. An example of this in the show is that Kiwi essentially kills the group by being lured in with money by Faraday. Night City makes you feel hopeless, alone, and paranoid. Edgerunners is not here to make you feel good. It's here to send a message. When David was first introduced into the show, Edgerunners foreshadowed his fate from the beginning. Besides, he literally got shot in the head in the opening. It all starts with the Cyber Psycho in the beginning. The Cyber Psycho uses the Sandevistan and absolutely obliterates the NCPD. The Cyber Psycho then dies, and the Sandevistan falls into the hands of Gloria. David installs the Sandevistan as his first piece of chrome. Then he meets Maine, who is a chromed up monster of a person. Maine then becomes psycho after having too much chrome in his body and then dies. David gets more chrome in Maine's absence. The chrome affects his body, and in the end he becomes psycho and dies. Before David dies, he tells Falco to drive off with Lucy to safety. This dream that David has had for the entirety of the anime, from Gloria telling him to go up the ranks of Arasaka, and when he tries to follow down the same path as Maine, he ends up dying, trying to live the life others wanted for him. From the beginning up until the end, David's life was tragic, as he didn't really live the life he wanted. He lived the life of other people's dreams for him. Rebecca is a quirky, hot-headed gunslinger. We don't know much of Rebecca's backstory, but that doesn't stop her from being an enjoyable character. She's fucking insane when she's in a gunfight, but she can also be a softie, especially when it comes to David. Here's a fun fact, Rebecca wasn't even supposed to be in the anime. When Studio Trigger proposed the idea of Rebecca, CD Projekt Red was opposed to this because, quote, she's a lolly. Lollies don't exist in Night City. It doesn't fit the Cyberpunk 2077 aesthetic. Studio Trigger's response was, no, the lolly must stay. This is probably the gayest thing I've cited. I'm moving on now. Lucy is a mysterious character in the show, as she never really talks about her past. We saw some of her past though. When Lucy was a child, she was taken to an undisclosed Arasaka facility to become a netrunner. Lucy and some other children used their netrunning abilities to overpower the staff and fled the Arasaka facility. Lucy was the only survivor when the children fled. Lucy is also the only survivor in the Edgerunner group and successfully goes to the moon in the end of the anime. To be completely honest, the ending of the anime is hard to decide whether it is a good or bad ending. I mean, Lucy finally goes to the moon, but everyone she ever knew is now dead. If you stuck around this long into the end of the video, thank you. I don't do essay style videos often. I think the funny thing is as well is that I'm not very good at essay videos. I kinda just spit shit out of my ass and hope it sticks. With the release of Edgerunners and the upcoming Phantom Liberty DLC, I would say Cyberpunk 2077 is doing pretty good for itself. Even the quest director for Cyberpunk states that it's fucking good to be back after the recent resurgence in players. And I feel like the devs deserve the recognition and appreciation that they weren't getting before. After everything has been said and done, the story of 2077's disastrous release and Edgerunners coming back and reviving the series is certainly an interesting one to cover. Anyways, thank you for sticking around and watching. Your presence here is always appreciated. Have a great night, people, and I'll see you soon.
Feel the rhythm of the streets, neon lights and neon dreams, bloody fists, they feel no pain, when there's so much more to gain. Hunting season, if you will, tell me where'd you rather be? I can't